The Magic Show is brought to you by StarCityGames.com, and check this out. On October 17th, the StarCityGames.com Open Series hits Nashville for the first time ever, and this event is going to be huge. We're talking hundreds of players, over $10,000 in cash prizes, at least 8 players qualifying for the 2010 StarCityGames.com Invitational, live coverage on the StarCityGames.com website, tons of side events, and as much Magic the Gathering as we can pack into one weekend. So make plans to join StarCityGames.com in Nashville, and we'll see you there.
Hi, I'm Evan Irwin. This is the StarCityGames.com Baltimore Legacy Open and...
Welcome to the Magic Show!
Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Magic Show. This week we'll see some footage from my gunslinging in LA via the always awesome Sunmesa Events, talk about some cards that were worse and better than expected, and look at some decks as we get ready for states next week. Let's go! So I'm back from LA and I've got some serious stories to tell you. First up, my pool was kind of insane. To give you an idea, I played 4 of my 6 rares, including 3 pretty decent mythics, like Koth of the Hammer, Molten Tail Masticore, and Indomitable Archangel. Needless to say, I crushed pretty handedly, until I met up with an even better pool. If you can believe it, turns out someone else opened the nuts mono black deck, yes, mono freaking black and sealed, with no less than 3 Grasp in Darkness, plenty of infect monsters including double Corpse Cur, finishing it up with Skinrender, Skithiryx the Hard to Spell Dragon, and oh yeah, Wormcoil Engine. I'll tell you right now, there is no bomb as balmy as Wormcoil Engine in Sealed deck. That card is patently absurd and I lost to it twice at the pre-release, also known as the amount of times I had to play against it. So, Wormcoil Engine, can we just start calling this bad boy Baneslayer Thrynax because he's large and charged and going to wrap around your head and squeeze it right off? Wormcoil Engine is basically every man's Titan, a card that can go in any deck and serve up some serious beatdown. That said, how did Koth of the Hammer actually play? I know it's a shocker, but fantastically well. Let's face it, in Seal the Draft, his second ability is probably never going to make an impact, but that first ability in his ultimate, game winning, is a fair descriptor. I bash for 4, or as I found myself doing often, I would just untap a mountain and pass, building up to his game winning ultimate. Every time I fired off said ultimate, I won the game. Again, I know, big surprise, Koth is amazing and the superlatives just keep coming. I can't wait to see what he's going to be doing in Standard. That said, how about a deck list? Well, here's Jerry Thompson's Goblin deck from his most recent premium article. Now, this only runs a few basic mountains, but as Jerry said in his article, quote, losing after acquiring Koth's emblem was nigh impossible. Truer words were never spoken. But you know what I really came away with from the pre-release? A real appreciation of Poison. Wizards has done it. They've actually brought Poison back, made it relevant and limited, but isn't overpowered. That said, I personally consider all infect creatures to have double strike at this point. They are incredibly difficult to block, and if you look at Skithiryx the Hard to Spell Dragon as a 4/4 double striker, he's a lot more appealing. Hell, all of them are. Ichorclaw Mirror is suddenly pretty badass as a 1/1 double striker that turns into a 3/3 Wither when blocked. That said, I'm not sure Infect is going to make it into top tier constructed decks. Yes, they only have to deal 10 damage to kill you, but the tools for tier 1 just aren't there yet. And for what it's worth, I think that's a good thing. Losing to just 10 damage instead of 20 can be kind of frustrating after a while. I'm reminded of that wonderful time in Magic when Mirrodin was first released. Everyone was having fun with their goofy and slow Cumulox affinity decks and seeing how neat Frogmite and Thoughtcast were thanks to the artifact lands. Then Darksteel showed up, like your drunk brother-in-law you never invited to the party, who then crashed it with wanton abandon. Needless to say, it was a bloodbath. Massive bannings were necessary. Arcbound Ravager affinity basically destroyed Turn of Attendance by itself, and Disciple of the Vault lets you blow people out with life loss even if you had a card like Worship on the table. Hate from cards like Damping Matrix and Oxidize weren't nearly enough, and Magic suffered for years as a result. Cards like Kataki War's Wage finally saw print, but much, much too late. So if Wizards takes it easy on Infect and keeps it a limited-only affair, that's fine with me. If they make it Tier 1, I expect some serious better-than-leeches type effect at getting rid of your own poison counters. That said, new blocks should impact Constructed over just plain Zendikar block with some M11 goodies. Between the two major mechanics, I think Metalcraft is the one to get the Constructed nod, and we'll see how it shapes up. Speaking of Constructed, let's take a look at a sweet white weenie beatdown deck, also courtesy of Jerry Thompson. Now the star, of course, is Quest for the Holy Relic, a card that came out of nowhere to suddenly be featured in all the new White Weenie deck lists. Sure, it takes 5 creatures being cast to trigger it, but you realize that between Glenhawk and Memnite, you'll get 3 of those counters for just a single mana. And what better equipment to fetch and equip than Argentum armor? Saving yourself 12 mana is no joke for this Vindicate on a stick. Oh, and +6/+6 ain't bad either. This is a powerful aggro option for the metagame, and now a first turn Quest for the Holy Relic is not only legitimate, it's downright scary. So I spent the weekend battling Sealed Deck. How about some cards that were a little disappointing? Well, Azuri's Archers is the standout here. This card is straight terrible. Bad when you're ahead, bad when you're behind. No one is going to attack into this with their flyers without dealing with it first. Fulgent Distraction, apart from having one weird name, is nowhere near as good as its throwback spell, Blinding Beam. Blinding Beam was fantastic back in Mirrodin. Its closely aligned cousin? Not so much. Heavy Arbalist? Well, that card is just too heavy. Stopping the equipped creature from untapping is the straw that makes it very difficult to use and abuse efficiently. Psychic Miasma? Well, what looks like a solid discard spell doesn't actually match up in real life. And lastly, Semblance Anvil, even if rare, is bad and sets you up to get blown out by Shatter and other sundries. How about some That Impressed? Strider Harness was way better than expected. For a mere 1 mana kicker, any creature you cast after playing it is suddenly +1/+1 and most importantly has haste. Tainted Strike wins games out of nowhere. If you're an Infect deck, it's probably the best trick you have. Suddenly your normal guys are poisoning them too. Trigon of Rage is amazing. The fact that it gives +3/+0 instead of what I would expect in +2/+0 makes this way above the curve in efficiency. Your deck doesn't even need red mana to make this card playable. Tangle Angler is scary in the Infect builds. Pouring your green mana in makes all of your other Infect creatures unblockable, so dealing 10 is quite a bit easier. Rustic was an all-star. This guy solves all kinds of problems, from awesome creatures to sweet rares like Prototype Portal or my favorite sleeper rare in the set, Mimic Vat. Let's take a few seconds here on the Mimic Vat. The Vat is where it's at, peeps. This thing is not being given credit, and I think it's time we do so. Just imagine, if you will, a control deck playing this and then casting Day of Judgment next turn. Suddenly it can pick and choose which creature it wants to imprint and then get empty copies of later. If they Day of Judgment with their own Baneslayer Angel on the table, good luck, as a flying first striking life-linking badass is headed your way every turn thereafter. What if they imprint a Titan? Pick your favorite flavor and go nuts. Just saying, if you don't have your playset, I'd pick them up soon. So that's it for this week, folks. I'll leave you with a special birthday treat given to me by the players at the Sunmesa Events pre-release in LA. Special thanks to Glenn Goddard, the organizer for the event. Be sure to rock those release events and enjoy your free still Hellkite. I know my cube will. Until next time, Magic players, this is Evan Irwin, tapping the cards so you don't have to.
So, on the count of 3, recorded by his own camera, we're going to sing Evan Happy Birthday. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Evan. Happy birthday to you.
like the fatties.